Hey guys, it's Victor here, and today I'm coming at you with a retro deck profile featuring one of my personal favorite decks, Frog Monarchs. So, this specific variant of Frog Monarch is very popular during the September 2011 format, and while it may not be the best deck, it's still able to compete with the likes of Tengu Plant, TG, and Agents. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so starting off with the frogs, we have triple swap, double dupe, 1 Ronin, and 3 Treeborn Frog. So the frogs are the heart and soul of the deck. You pretty much always want access to them, whether it be the swap to send like a Treeborn or any other of the frogs, whether it's Ronin or Dupe because of their 2000 defense points, or Treeborn Frog, which is easily the most important part of the deck because without it, you are not going to be able to play for very long. Your number one goal with this deck is to try and get this into the graveyard as soon as possible, because without it, you're not going to be able to fuel your tribute summons. You're not going to be able to do anything with like enemy controllers or, yeah, it's just the number one goal for this deck is to get Treeborn Frog into the graveyard as fast as possible. But that's not to say like the others aren't as important, like Ronintoadin. Being able to come back and being a level 2 allows you to perform Xyz summons pretty easily or tribute summons without needing the Treeborn Frog. It can't be used as a synchron material, but that's honestly whatever. Then you have the Dupe Frogs. If you get both of them out somehow, you'd be able to perform the Dupe Lock, where your opponent is not able to attack anything, which can buy you a couple of turns, which is very important, honestly, in a format that's very tempo-based. Just being able to slow the game down is tremendous. And then lastly, you have Swap Frog, who is able to send any frog from your deck to the grave, and he can come back. And then the best part about this is that, since this is old Swap Frog technically, it doesn't have a limitation to how many times you can return it and special summon it, so you can just keep bouncing it back and back and back in order to fill up your graveyard with a potential, like, with as many frogs as you want, honestly. Yep, really solid. You cannot play the deck without any of this entire engine, except for maybe, I guess, if you really want to find the space, you could potentially just cut the Ronin and the dupes and just keep it Swap Frog and triple Treeborn, but I personally don't. I think this is probably one of the best ratios for the deck. With the frogs out of the way, we can now focus on the tribute section of the deck, starting with 3 Caius and 3 Raiza. What can I say? These are the best normal summons or tribute summons in the deck. You can get rid of literally any card that may be bothersome. There's a sketchy back row, get rid of it. An extra deck monster, get rid of it. A boss monster on the field like BLS or Hyperion, get rid of it. They pretty much do everything and anything that this deck needs to accomplish to help ensure that you win the game. Then we play double Light and Darkness Dragon, a fantastic card since it's able to provide up to 5 negates, and when it gets destroyed, you are able to special summon any monster from your graveyard. So you can get back a frog or another monarch, whatever you may need to help facilitate your game plan. And then lastly, we play 2 Vanity's Fiend and 2 Jinzo. So I know these two may be weird, but I personally like playing them because in the TG matchup, for example, Jinzo completely stops them and helps win the game pretty convincingly, as none of their monsters can typically beat over this unless they somehow are able to like reborn a Beast King Barbaros or tribute summon for it, which is pretty unlikely. And then Vanity's Fiend can straight up win you the Agents and the Tengu Plant matchup by preventing them from being able to special summon any monsters that can beat over it. Both these decks pretty much rely on Book of Moon or Dark Hole to be able to answer any of these cards, but by the point that they're able to draw it, you've typically already won the game. And the last of our monsters are all hand traps, so we play triple Battle Fader, double Tragodia, and 1 Gores. Probably the 6 of the more important cards in the entire deck, because they'll help ensure that you survive, since this deck does not play like a lot of protection like Mirror Force or Torrential or anything like that. You pretty much have to rely on this or all of these to help keep you alive. And then on the bonus side, these are also great fodders that help you perform synchro summons or Xyz or tribute summon plays fairly easily. Yeah, you pretty much have to play this. And then in addition to those, I play 2 Effect Veiler. I don't play Maxi, but if you really wanted to, you can just drop like a Vanity's Fiend and a Jinzo or any combination of those 4 and then just put in 2. Leviair is great because it's a level 1, it's a tuner, so it's able to facilitate any synchro plays or just negate any potential problems like tour guide, since it was really popular during this format. Yeah, just a really overall solid lineup. Like I said, if you want to play Maxi, you can. You can just drop Vanities or Jinzo and no problems there. But I prefer just playing it like this. But like I said, there's always room for improvement, and it's all up to like player preference. So now that we finally finished with the monsters, we can now move into the spells of the deck, starting with 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Heavy Storm, and 1 1-for-1. Not much needs to be said about the first 4. They're really good cards, staples, pretty much of almost every single deck. Yeah, you pretty much should always try and play them if you can. But 1-for-1 is a different story. This card's really cool. It can help special summon a Treeborn Frog or an effect veiler from your deck, which will allow you to either perform a synchro summon or a tribute summon, whichever one you choose. Yeah, it's just a really great play extender in case you have like a subpar hand. And then we have 3 Soul Exchange. Great card. It helps you tribute summon for your Light and Darkness Dragons or your Vanity's Fiends very easily by using your opponent's resources instead of your own. Yeah, not much to say. Sure, it doesn't let you conduct your battle phase, but that honestly doesn't really matter since the format's a little bit slow, and whatever you're tribute summoning out with this card is typically going to turn the tide of the game to the point where your opponent can't play. And lastly, we have Triple Enemy Controller. Fantastic card, especially if you pair it up with Treeborn Frog during the standby phase. So say you go Treeborn, Special, Enemy Controller, Take. You can bring back the Treeborn Frog and then use another enemy controller and bring it back. Or you've basically just giving yourself 2 free fodders for another Light and Darkness Dragon or a Synchro player, whatever you may want to do with your turn. And with that, that's the main deck. It's 40 cards. I never go over that. I'd always try to keep it to 40 if I can. I wouldn't really change anything else, except for, like I said, if you want to play Maxi, you can just play with the ratios of the Jinzo and the Vanity's Fiend. But other than that, I think the deck is really solid. With the main deck out of the way, we can finally focus on the extra deck, which is just as important. So we play 1 Formula Synchron, great card, it's a free draw, and it's really good if you're able to somehow pair it with TG Hyper Librarian, where you'll be able to draw 2 cards, because every time a monster is synchro summoned while Librarian is out, you get to draw a free card. Then we have Ally of Justice Catastor, a great level 5, it destroys any non-dark monster that it battles. Then we can go to the level 6s, which are Brionac. Good for helping set up your graveyard if you really need to, or getting rid of any potential extra deck monsters. 1 Flamvell uruquizas. You don't need to play this one. It's probably better if you play an Orient Dragon, honestly, but going into your extra deck for level 6s is pretty rare, so it doesn't really matter what you're going to play for this slot. Then we play 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon. Just a staple. You should probably always have this in your extra deck, and you're able to synchro summon it by using like any of your level 6s like Jinzo or a Monarch with Leviair. And same goes for Black Rose Dragon. In case your resources are looking bad or your opponent's getting a bunch of advantage, you can just reset the field by destroying it with this card. And then for level 8s, we play 1 Stardust Dragon. Good card. You should always have this in your extra deck for this format. And 1 Scrap Dragon. Also a good card. It's a free pop to help you deal with any potential problems. And then for the final synchro monster, we play 1 Trishula. Probably the strongest synchro monster in this era, since it's allowing you to banish 1 card from the hand, field, and graveyard. Just really good. And then next, we can move on to the 1 fusion, which is Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. Sometimes you'll run into a machine deck, so all you have to do is side in 2 Cyber Dragons, or however Cyber Dragons you play, and then you can just contact with them, and you can make that matchup easy. And then finally, we have a couple of Xyz monsters. 1 in the form of number 39 Utopia. You may be asking, we don't play any level 4, so how do you summon this? Well, you play enemy controller and you play reborn, so if you can take your opponent's monsters and you don't have a tribute summon, you can just go into Utopia. And the same logic applies to Leviair the Sea Dragon. Obviously, you don't have to play these 2 if you really want. You can switch them out for, say, Leviathan Dragon, for Leviair, and you can switch Utopia with Steel Swarm Roach. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. The main reason that they're here is to get rid of your opponent's monsters and not give them back during the end of the turn. And then we play the most important Xyz monster, Gachi Guntetsu. You play a lot of level 2s with the frogs, and because of this, you're always going to have a wall that can potentially win you the game, or just stall for long enough for you to get your resources and be able to swing the momentum. Yeah, they're just really good cards. And with that, that is the 15 cards that I play in my extra deck. Alright, so that's the Frog Monarch deck. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for any other retro deck profiles you'd like me to feature, feel free to comment them down below, and I'll try my best to get them onto the channel. Until next time, have a great day.